It is almost 35 years since I first began my career in aviation right here in Bengaluru city at the Jakkur airfield. The first aircraft that I flew was at the age of 17. It was a glider aircraft called the T-21B. This was a very basic aircraft. It had no engine and just 3 instruments. This aircraft was pulled up into the air with the help of a winch and a cable, and the cable was released at the top of takeoff, and the aircraft got airborne. Now, the entire circuit and landing of this aircraft was just 3 minutes. But I remember the feeling that I had in those 3 minutes. It was such a feeling of pure, beautiful, intense joy. I felt absolutely no fear, no anxiety of flying. And now every single time that I have ever flown an aircraft or a helicopter, I have felt exactly the same way. I have to apologize to my husband of 27 years that he is not my first love. Flying is my first love. And I'm sure all of you sitting here in the audience who have ever experienced your first love, it is just such a beautiful experience. Over the years now, whenever I've had a conversation with someone and they realize I've been a pilot, been in the military, the first question that I get asked is, are you not afraid of flying in an aircraft alone? Did you not feel any kind of fear? And normally now I just give a very generic answer and I just say that, it's just like riding a cycle or learning to drive a car. But if I give this a little thought, I realized that from a very young age, I was always on the lookout for the next adventure. I always wanted to do things just a little bit differently. I was quite fearless from a very, very young age. So what took me from this naughty, curious child to want to become this fearless woman who wanted to be a pilot? What is the meaning of being fearless? Research says that it is your childhood observations, your beliefs, and the experiences that you have had in your life. I am the 3rd generation pilot in my family. My grandfather, at the age of 18, he decided to leave his family in India and he boarded a ship to Nairobi, where he picked up a job in a flying school where he was cleaning the aircrafts and he was cleaning the hangars, and in exchange for that, they gave him some free flying lessons. So he began his career in the British Overseas Aircraft Corporation, which is today known as British Airways. And now during the World War II, he decided he'll resign from his job, he'll move his family back to India, and he'll take up a job in Karachi with the Indian National Airways, which is one of the pioneering airways in India. And he was one of the few commercial pilots who flew during the World War II. And now my father, at the age of 15, he became a sailor with the Indian Navy. While he was on the ship, he wanted to study for the National Defense Academy exams and be an officer. So he joined the military as an Indian Air Force pilot, and he was one of the first helicopter pilots in this country. And he was one of the pilots who brought the Russian Mi-4 helicopters to India. So as you can clearly see, flying is in my blood. I have this legacy that I am carrying forward with me. Life for me as a military child was very exciting, full of experiences. My dad and his course-mates told us all these flying stories, these war missions. My father is a 3-time war hero. He is a twice decorated Gallantry Award winner. So in the military, we always had to move to a new place, new school, new friends. So the seed for discovery and exploration was in me at that very young age. But for any of us who is looking to succeed, what drives this need for self-discovery and exploration? I remember when I was about 13 years old, I read this book by Richard Bach called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. If any of you are familiar with that, this was a book about a seagull called Jonathan. Now, Jonathan did not want to be like the regular seagulls. He wanted to show his flock that there was more to life than just looking around for food. I quote from the book. "Why, John? Why?" asked his mother. "Why can't you be like the rest of the flock? Why can't you leave the low-level flying for the pelicans and the albatross? Why don't you eat, John? You are just bone and feathers." But John, on the other hand, he wanted to soar as high as he could. He wanted to dive as deep as he could. He wanted to break and exceed all the speed barriers, but he just didn't want to be a regular seagull. In the book, Jonathan says, "The only true law is the one that leads to freedom. There is no other." So, the fable is trying to tell us that from wingtip to wingtip and from the top to toe, you are nothing but an extension of your own thoughts in a form that you cannot see. So, if you can break the chain of these thoughts, you can also break the chain that is binding your body and holding you back from achieving your dreams. Yes, I know, this is a fictional story. In real life, we all have our fears, we have our disappointments. But if you have a dream and you have a purpose, you are able to transcend all that. And that is what flying was to me. It was freedom. It was a passion. It was an end to achieve something. The year was 1993. I had graduated from Mount Carmel College. I had managed to fly the glider aircraft, the microlight aircraft, the Cessna 152 single-engine aircraft. I was a parasailing instructor. I had done all of this through my college, through the National Cadet Corps. And of course, I wanted to continue my journey as a pilot. So I asked my father, "Can I become a commercial pilot?" My father refused because he said he did not have the fees for me to pay for the academy. So I applied for a scholarship to every single state that had a flying school. And I received a scholarship from the Karnal Aviation Club in Haryana for 100 hours of flying. So I packed my bags and I went to Karnal. My life in this flying school started at 4 a.m. I used to drive my borrowed scooter in pitch black darkness, 5 o'clock in the morning, to the hangar. The only person there was me and the watchman on duty. I used to open the hangar, push the aircraft out, clean it, and I was airborne at the crack of sunrise. I did this for 2 hours a day, every day for 6 months. My flying instructor there, he put his faith, he put his confidence in me that I was capable of doing this. So what I learned at that age was that I could take ownership for my own things, and I was responsible now for my own actions. So I finished that scholarship and I hit the roadblock again. I did not have the funds to continue with my flying. So then my father said to me, he said, "Do the civil services examination," because that was his dream, that I become a civil services officer. I cleared the preliminary exams, but something told me that I was not done as yet. I was not ready to give up my dream of wanting to be a pilot. I want to share a little secret with you. If you want to succeed, you must believe that you have already achieved it. So have a dream and have a purpose. Keep your purpose realistic enough, but be relentless in the pursuit of it. Because if one door closes for you, the opportunity will come for you someday. And that opportunity came for me when the IAF decided to open its doors to women pilots in '94. And I joined the first batch of women helicopter pilots in the IAF. I was commissioned in December '95 as the first woman helicopter pilot in this country. So I can now say this to you with the greatest of conviction. Create your own roadmap. Don't give the reins of your life into someone else's hand. Take ownership for your own life. And you will see the magic that can happen. Life in the military for me was super exciting. We were the first batch of women pilots in the Air Force. All the attention was on us. We were the centerpieces. We had the media attention. It was good, it was bad. But the challenges and the experiences that I had in the military was, for me, a lifelong experience that I carry forward even today. I realized that I was not just a pilot now. I was a soldier. I was meant to serve, and I was meant to save lives. And I was now responsible for someone else's life. The unit that I was posted to, one of the first few, was a search and rescue task unit. And we operated in the northern area in Uttarakhand and Himalayan ranges. One very foggy winter evening, we were asked to go and do a mission to rescue a soldier who had been injured at one of the firing ranges. And this range was in that area, which was very mountainous, very tall trees, high tension cable wires. The visibility that day was extremely poor because it was winter. But we got airborne in record time because this is what we trained for day and night. We reached the range. We couldn't land at that area, so we landed in a very small school compound. And they brought the soldier by road to us. He was barely alive, he was bleeding out. But we carried him, we flew that sortie at 300 feet above the ground level. One of us pilots was holding the soldier, talking to him all the time so that we could keep him awake, we could keep him alive. We reached the military hospital. All we could do was pray that he would make it. And about 15 days later, we got a call in the unit. The soldier who called us, he had survived, he had recovered, and he just wanted to thank us, the pilots, for saving his life. It was in missions like this, and many other missions that I got to experience in the Air Force, that I realized the value of what I had learned, the value of all those years of what I had put myself through. That was the value that I got in the Air Force. The cyclone that happened in Gujarat, the Bhuj earthquake in Jan 2000, the Kargil war, flying operations for soldiers at 21,000 feet in extreme weather conditions, flying in the Thar desert at 53 degrees centigrade where your boots will melt into the ground. And our soldiers are at those posts where no one has ever seen those posts. I experienced all this firsthand, and I experienced what the human spirit is capable of doing. There was destruction, there was devastation, but I also saw what resilience is in a human being. So one of the greatest lessons that I have learned in the Indian Air Force is to build resilience. Because when life will knock you down, when you will have failures, when you don't know what is the next step, when you have fears, when you have challenges, if you have built in your life resilience as a skill, you will be able to adapt faster, you will be able to change, and you will be able to get back on your feet much faster. Another very important lesson that I have learned in the military is to have the right perspective. This was taught to me by one of my instructors while we were training at high altitude training, where he said, if you don't have the correct perspective, you will either land here or you will land here, but you will not land there on the helipad. So you need to have the correct perspective. This applies to our everyday life as well, because if you have the right perspective, then you know what is important for you and what is not. And when change happens to you, you will not be bothered by it, but you will change your perspective, you will adapt more quickly, and you will be able to move on. You will accept those failures and setbacks because you know what it is to fail, and you have built resilience, so you accept it. When I left the IAF, I decided to change my perspective. I wanted to do something different. I decided I will be an entrepreneur because I had a hunger to know more and do something different. So I started my business in fashion and lifestyle branding. Everything was learned from scratch. The marketing, the designing, I built it step by step. There were mistakes made, there were setbacks. But what I did in that was I learned and I grew. So having a growth mindset means that instead of just surviving and going through life on an everyday basis, you are now thriving. Because you have this hunger in you. You want to learn, you want to grow, you want to share your knowledge with other people. So you have this growth mentality inside you. I began my third innings, that I like to call it, as a life coach. Why I did this was because I felt I had a unique set of skills and experience that I wanted to share with the rest of the world. I wanted to be able to now help others have a dream, have a purpose, and try and reach their goals. Now, coming full circle, as a life coach, what is my purpose? My purpose is not just to make people succeed in life. My purpose is to help them build a limitless mindset. Because if you have a limited mindset, you are then open to whatever the universe is giving you, what the universe is offering you. You take it with big open arms. I'd like to quote now another famous author, Paulo Coelho, in his book, The Alchemist. He said that if you want to succeed, if you want something in life, the entire universe will conspire in helping you achieve it. And this is true. So, what is the end game here? I would say to you, keep showing up. Show up in your life, show up for others, show up for yourself every single day. Doesn't matter how much you succeed or don't succeed, how famous a person you become or you don't become a famous person, doesn't matter. But each human being here craves to want to make some kind of a connection. We want to be able to leave an impact in our lives. We want to be able to create this legacy and carry it forward. So why not do this with empathy and with a lot of compassion? Why not make your life into one act of love? Thank you.